Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Aline. I am your host, and today we are welcoming back a guest, John Speaks, who was the proprietor of Hyperion Public, which is a restaurant he opened in 2012, and we talked to him, I think it was in 2022, about his ventures and his partnerships and how everything went. Well, that restaurant closed in January of this year, and now John is engaged in a lawsuit against a number of different parties, including the state of California, the city of Los Angeles, LAPD, and a number of other persons. And so John is back to talk to us about the allegations, the challenges that he's had in this restaurant, what led it to closure, and why the lawsuit. So welcome back, John. Sorry it's under these circumstances, but
don't be.
Yeah, how are you?
All things considered, I'm very well. I mean, I'm in good spirits, sort of good health, but stress will do crazy things to your body. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about today.
Absolutely. So tell us about the restaurant closing in January. In fact, one of the articles I had seen, there was a list of restaurants that had closed in 2024, and for a number of reasons, right? Most people will say that it was a result of COVID, right? That people are still trying to bounce back from, what happened in 2020 that took us through the next few years. But you're saying it wasn't necessarily COVID. You're saying that you closed based on harassment.
Yeah, no, COVID did not kill my business. See, my business opened in 2012, and then in 2022, well, actually in 2020, once I announced that it was a Black-owned business, so no one knew it was a Black-owned business. Like I said in the last one, when I announced it publicly as a Black-owned business, then I started getting, all these harassing type of situations happen. Cops coming by all the time, driving into my parking lot when there was, like a Black family down in there, and driving up on them and pulling away and then leaving. It's like, and that's kind of intimidating, I would think, especially for some people. Then a bunch of just random inspections, and sometimes 2 or 3 inspections by the same departments, like say the public health department, every day. Things like that became harassment, as well as intimidation, as well as stopping customers from coming by and things like that. COVID didn't really have a huge effect on me. Yeah, we lost some money, but my particular store, my business, was doing quite well because my business was community based, and I took care of the community, and so the community took care of me in return. So there was always customers, always happening. And then one day it just seemed like the powers that be didn't want me there anymore. Once they found out it was a Black-owned business, it became, what is the word I'm looking for? Very, very hard to work anymore, So COVID didn't kill me. COVID didn't kill that business.
So what's interesting, you said that people didn't know that it was a Black-owned business, and that's because you had partners as well, didn't you? It wasn't just you when you opened; it was you and a few other, 2 other gentlemen.
Right. Well, it was me, another guy named Akita Mashaka, who's a Black man, and then a guy named Patty Aubrey, who's a white man. So people always saw Patty because he's the chef, so people didn't assume there was anybody else involved. They just thought I was a bartender or something. I'm not sure what they thought. But through circumstances, Akita ended up leaving, and then Patty had a tragedy in his family, so he ended up leaving, and that just left me. So once it's just me, Patty, my partner Patty, he recommended that because of the COVID PPP loans, he said, why don't you just let people know you're a Black-owned business and you can get that PPP money faster and you can stay afloat. So I did that, and I, let it be publicly known. It was put in the papers and everything else. There was like lots of articles written. And I changed the menu to soul food. I mean, it was good. We had some good food, some good times, some good people, and I guess that change set off a little something to other people, and they realized that, hey, how is this restaurant in this neighborhood? Because the neighborhood's predominantly a white neighborhood. I'm not going to lie. It's like
Okay.
when I was looking at the demographics of the neighborhood, the demographics are, basically majority Caucasian, a few Asian, and 2% Black people in that neighborhood. So
Right.
how was I even there in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Well, the neighborhood, they loved it. They enjoyed it because I supported the schools, I supported the teachers' strike, I supported the writers' strike, the actors' strike. I fed the police officers, and I fed the fire department. But
Right.
still, somebody flipped on me somewhere. And I think it was more of on an upper level because it was more of a systemic racism thing that I'm fighting
Right.
against.
Right.
And that's something I'm trying to change, not just for myself and for Hyperion Public, but because this is a federal case now and such a high level one, this case could change the rules for the entire country, for everyone, for every Black owned business, for every minority owned business, for every small business that has to face systemic racism throughout their operation. I'm going to change those rules for the entire nation by doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. It is a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. You did say that, although the community that you were in, and we should note that this is Los Angeles, where
Yes,
your business is, right? So
LA
it's
all day.
not like it's in some conservative state where,
No,
it's in LA, right?
yeah,
One of the most liberal cities, if not the most liberal city in the U.S.
one of
And it also sounds like you were very much a part of the community, as you just explained. Um, it just, and I'm sure it seemed odd to you, right? What was it that actually led to you having to close in January?
Oh, well, that's a crazy story. See, at first, what they did was they didn't tell me. No one told me anything. It
And
says
when you say no one, you mean
none of the agencies, not the ABC, not the health department, not building and safety, not the LAPD, no one. What happened
okay,
was I started getting these complaints and complaints and complaints about noise and about this and about that. Because, like I said, we were still popular. People still came by, even
right,
though there was a takeout window. People would come and they'd get their things and they'd hang out in the area, like around there.
right,
I never left the building, so I didn't know exactly where they were, but I knew I had a big outdoor patio, and I also know I had a big parking lot that people would hang out in, which are
hmm,
perfectly legal. They're all permitted for people to do that as long as they were, spaced apart and everything else. They were fine.
hmm,
But what happened was I went to order liquor one day, and my rep said I can't order liquor because my liquor license wasn't valid anymore. And this was on January 15th, right?
right,
No, on January 16th. So I called around saying, what's wrong with my liquor license? And they said, well, it's been surrendered, meaning I can't use this liquor license anymore. So I'm calling and I'm saying, why did you surrender my liquor license without telling me? And, first they gave me one excuse, and then they gave me another excuse, and then they gave me another excuse. And then I'm like, okay, none of this is adding up. It doesn't make any sense. So I ended up going to court over all these things, and I won the case, and I
okay,
defended myself. So I defend myself in court all the time now at this point. So I won this case, and then after winning the case, I made a statement on social media saying, yeah, on my bucket list of things to do was go to court, defend myself in court, and win. I said that on the 6th,
so you did that,
and on the 8th, I had new charges pressed against me, which is called retaliation.
right,
So
right.
that's not legal for them to do. Um, but when
And
they took, I'm sorry,
no, and I was going to ask, so when you won the case, what was it that the judge realized that, like, so what was the explanation for retiring your license?
they don't have one.
They didn't have one.
They didn't have one, no. And
Okay.
and the thing is, once you surrender a liquor license, you can't give it back. So they went through all this process of like trying to find something, and then what they found was um, a how would I say this, a fraudulent company somewhere. Like there was a case a while ago about this person whose house was sold from underneath them, and they didn't even know because somebody did this thing, a claim on their deed without them knowing. There's the same
Right.
type of situation because like in LA, there's scammers everywhere. There's people who will scam you out of your underwear if you let them. So somebody pulled a scam, and they went through all these court things without me knowing. They filed this court case in a different county, so it's out of the even jurisdiction. I didn't even know things were happening, and they used that as their final way of saying, "Oh well, that happened, so that's why we took it." But that was the sixth excuse. See what I'm saying? So they they kind of messed up in terms of having a legal explanation for their actions. It seemed more like, to me, it seemed more like they just wanted me gone because here I am, this black man in this neighborhood, and Hyperion Public was making literally $2.5 million a year already. So how are they how are they going to let me slide? You know?
And then you received other violations. So tell us about the other violations. Um,
Oh, that they put on me or that I have on them?
well, no, they put on you because it wasn't just the liquor license that was the
Oh, that
challenge.
that was the main thing. But what they tried to do after that was it basically came down to entrapment after that. So, they take the liquor license away and without telling me. So once I found out, I immediately closed the business because I can't operate without it.
Right.
So then, say my business is closed. So I gathered my staff together for one last hurrah, say goodbye to each other because I can't afford to pay them now. So
Right.
I have them all over on a Friday night. And then all of a sudden, undercover cops come in looking to arrest me for operating without a license. But I was closed to the public, and it was only, say, my staff there that I'm giving them bottles of liquor that are unopened. I'm saying take the TVs off the wall, take whatever you want because I can't afford to pay it. So in lieu of me not being able to pay you, I'm going to at least give you something, as much as I can. So so it all came down to all these like little shady things that were happening. But
And that happened in January when you told the staff that you can no longer
yeah,
that the
January
business is
16th, they took my liquor license. January 17th, I closed. January 19th, I had the staff over, and they tried to come in, thinking I'm serving to the public. But I had posted signs all over the outside of the building saying that I'm closed. I posted
that you were
social
closing.
media posts saying I'm closed. So
Right.
that, they couldn't really do anything. They walked in expecting to bust me, and I saw it coming. So, I
Right.
mean, if you're going
But
to,
but so after you won the court case, that should have been you should have been able to have your liquor license reinstated. Why was that still a challenge?
well, after I won the court case, that's before all this. After I won this court case, they just weren't going to let it go because I made that statement about wanting to my bucket list and winning in court and
Okay.
defending myself in court and winning in court. So then 2 days later, I have more charges pressed against me, and
Okay.
that's retaliation. So somebody's obviously monitoring my social media. So
And so, I mean, as you're going through this too, what would you, and unfortunately, you're not unique in this type of harassment. I mean, I've met other business owners who have talked about this, particularly around restaurants and pubs and bars.
right,
What would you advise? I mean, I know you're in the process of still fighting for your name, fighting for your business. Um,
I'm fighting for
but what would
all of
you
us.
advise people in terms of what they should understand? Or are there things that you could have done differently or looked at differently to protect yourself a little better?
I wouldn't change a thing. If I do anything to protect myself, then I'm hiding. And what do I have to hide? I'm doing good business with good people. I'm being straightforward and upfront about everything. I was doing was legit. There's no dirt on
Right.
me. So I have nothing to change. I have nothing to hide. And what I'm doing right now is I'm doing this not just for myself, but for every Black business owner there is who goes through this type of situation, to let them know that there are legal recourses for us. There's legal actions we can take. We can defend ourselves and we can win. So this is what I'm going to do. I
Yeah.
mean,
And no,
they,
and I was not suggesting that you had done anything wrong, but
oh no.
even in terms of, here in New York City, where I am, deed fraud is a big challenge, particularly in neighborhoods of color. And so one of the things that they suggest homeowners do is just to check on your deed regularly, right? To make sure that nothing is, looking strange in the system, or that your name or that your property is properly registered to you in New York. It's not. You don't have to have your deed registered, right? So some people just haven't done it, and so that can cause problems. But just from a business standpoint, are there certain things that you think that you could have checked on, or that you would have recommended that other people check on, to just make sure if somebody is playing with them, messing with them, that they are just trying to be ahead of whatever the challenge may be?
Well, I would say don't ever put off anything. Check everything all the time. I mean, you have to have all your ducks in a row, and you have to make sure that you're playing chess, not checkers. You don't want to be jumping around. You have to plan all of your moves in advance. And one of the reasons why this lawsuit is going to be so high is because I do plan everything in advance. I wasn't planning this just about this one location. I was setting Hyperion Public up to be a national brand. See, I had already started other corporations to back this. I'd been asked by this company called CBRE, and they're the developers behind SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles. They approached me about building a Hyperion Public in the stadium with them, to advance. And at that point, I knew I could go national with this. I could franchise this business, and I could be in every city, in every state, and I could be on the same level as a Buffalo Wild Wings or a Wingstop, you know.
Right.
And if you look up the history of those type of places, those like they've been around for 35, 40 years. Okay, I'm suing for 52 years of generational wealth that's been lost, that's been taken away from me. And how do I get the number 52 years of generational wealth, right? Quite easy. My youngest son is 17 years old. By the time he would be retirement age, that's 52 years from now. That's how much wealth was taken away from my family, from my business, from my franchising opportunities, from everything I was doing. And let's say my one restaurant's making $2.5 million a year already. Imagine I have 200 of them across the country. Imagine that. They took that away. So that's what I'm suing for. I'm suing for not just the loss of this business, but the loss of generational wealth, the loss of my name and my business and my community, my standing. I coached Little League in that community for 8 years. And I brought that community together. They didn't know that they knew it was me. Everybody knew it was me, and that wasn't the problem. But moving forward into the future, every Hyperion Public location nationwide, say there's 200 of them, all of them have little league coaches. All of them, represent rec centers. McDonald's has this McDonald's All American. There could have been a Hyperion Public All American scholarships, academic scholarships, sports scholarships, all these things, building communities across the nation. That's what they took away. By taking me out of the picture, that's what they took away. Systemic racism was like, kill it before it grows. And I was growing. I'm still growing. I'm going to grow no matter what.
You say that this is going to be, or it could possibly be, or the intention is it for it to be a landmark case. What is it that you hope that other businesses will benefit from you winning a case like this?
Well, I win this case. Okay. What happens then is there's now new laws, new legal precedents saying that certain things can't be done to small businesses, to minority-owned businesses. Period. You can't you can't harass them. You can't you can't over scrutinize them. You can't take out vengeful acts based on social media posts. You can't take out. There can't be acts of retaliation. There can't be threatening acts or intimidating acts by, doing things like pulling up in front of them and just stopping and, staring them down. Why are you doing that? What's the point? Are you doing that to the restaurant across the street? No, you're not. Are you doing that to anybody else on the block? No, you're not. Building and safety, why are they making me take down the awning off my building and take away my permitted areas? What, they suddenly lost the permit or something? I don't know. I don't know. I just have
And the thing is, I mean, those things are illegal currently. Like those are not things that any government agency is allowed to do. All of those things that you have listed off are illegal.
yes, they are illegal, but they get away with them because no one fights back to the level that I'm fighting back. I'm not going just to this local court. I'm going to the federal court. This is a federal case. This is U.S. federal court. So it doesn't matter what the police say or the ABC says or whomever else says because I went over their heads. I'm going to their boss's boss. So yeah, I'm doing this for the good of all of us, for
Right.
for for Black Americans, for Indigenous Americans. We have rights that we don't know that we have. So
Right.
sometimes you have to dig deep to find these rights, to find these laws, and some of them go back 100 years, and we didn't know they're there because we're not taught these things.
Right.
So we have to teach ourselves these things. And I'll tell you, AI lawyers are some of the best lawyers around
Well,
because
I'm glad you brought that up because this is number one, the crimes, and I will call them the crimes against you are major. So what you're fighting is major. And they're over 49. I mean, you've listed it's over, right? Over
yes,
50 charges, right?
violations against them, yes.
Why are you, and I'm going to say, taking the chance of representing yourself? I mean, when you look at the brief, you've done extensive research. You obviously understand a lot about the law, but there's so much at stake here. You feel confident in representing yourself.
Well, this would be the third time I've represented myself in court against the ABC, LAPD, and
Right,
all these people.
right,
So I'm very confident in myself. It's if I were to hire a lawyer to do all the work that I've done, just what
right.
you've seen, can you imagine how much that would cost? And no
I get that.
lawyer, exactly, and no lawyer on the planet knows more about me and my business than I know about myself and my business.
Yeah,
So how can they possibly represent me fully? They might get tired of me. They might say, okay, I don't want to hear this anymore. They might skip a
right,
detail, whereas
right,
with an AI situation, I literally sit, I'm on my computer probably 18 hours a day going through every little thing over and over and over again to make sure I don't miss a beat, double checking myself because, you know, am I going to double check a lawyer? How much is that going to cost me? Are they going
right,
to get it right the
right,
first time? No, I certainly didn't.
right.
So I know,
I mean, it's a thorough document. I'm very impressed. And so you're saying with the support of some AI,
oh,
um,
a lot of support from
a
AI.
lot of support from AI.
Yeah, there are no dumb questions in AI. You can ask a
Right,
question over and over and over again,
right.
and until you find
Until you
out
get
exactly what you're looking for.
right
Whereas, with an attorney, that's what $750 an hour here in
at an
LA,
hour.
and that's on the low end. And for a case like this, it's like you know you'd end up giving 30 to 50% of whatever you win to a lawyer. I'd
Right,
rather take that 30 to 50% and reinvest that into different communities across the country. I've got family
right,
in South Carolina, family in Philadelphia. I know people in St. Louis, Detroit, uh, San Antonio. I know people up in Oakland. These are communities I could help, and I fully intend on doing that because this is, like I said, this is not just about me. This is
right.
about this is about changing the transference of wealth. You've heard about that before, right? From
Hmm.
the rich to the poor. Well, it's got to
Hmm.
start somewhere, and it starts with people like us not taking this BS from the people above us anymore. Instead, we flip the script. We played chess, not checkers. They can jump around. We've planned our moves. We know what we're going to do, and we go do it systematically. It takes time. You can't rush the process, but you have to know your moves 6 moves in advance. So I don't know what they're thinking, and it doesn't matter what they're thinking. I'm thinking checkmate.
Where are we now? Where are we in the process?
Um, right now they've all been sent subpoenas, and they all should have responded by today. So the ones who haven't responded, they're getting letters to remind them, and then as a cautionary letter, just politely saying, please respond, send me all this information that I'm asking for, because there's certain things that when multiple agencies come at you at the same time, that's illegal. So if they have documents, they have to give me these documents once they're subpoenaed by the federal courts. They have to just give it up. So if there's documents from them that say that, let's say, the LAPD spoke to the ABC spoke to the building and safety, that's collusion. That's a wrap. Checkmate.
Well, what's inspiring is your dedication to this, because, and I understand why, but for a lot of businesses, it's a lot of pressure because, I mean, your business is now closed, but when you think about the burden that so many small businesses have just in running their business, just managing their staff, managing supply, taking care of customer demands. The fact that you are expending the amount of energy that you are, how are you? And we talked about stress earlier. How are your stress levels? How are you managing your family? And like, what are you going through mentally as you are going through this process?
I'll tell you, that's the roughest part. They took the business away in January. That means I haven't had a job since January. I haven't made any money. And thankfully I've had, a little nest egg to survive off of for this long, but it's not forever. And the stress level is ridiculous because there's things like, Christmases, holidays, things of that nature, when you can't buy your family gifts, when you're, it's heartbreaking. It's emotionally damaging. It's as stressful as anything you'd ever experience. And stress will cause you physical trauma to the point where I developed a tumor on my spine, on my T7 vertebrae. I have a small tumor there. So that's one of the first things I'll have to do is have spinal surgery once I get out of this situation. Stress wise, it's a lot to overcome, but it's also, it puts you in a place where you have to focus on what's real now, what the real thing is. How did I get here? How can I get out of this? Well, I know how I got here, and there's only one way out. It's like at a certain point in your life, you can't say, okay, well, I've lost my business. Let me go get a job at somewhere. And, that it doesn't work like that. At my age, especially, it's like you can't just go pick up a job. My kids are picking up the jobs. So, so what I have to do is continue to blaze the trail, continue to chop down the trees that are in their way, untangle the forest of wickedness is what I would like to call it, so that they, not just my kids, your kids, everybody else's kids, generations beyond me will have a path to walk, a trail that's already been blazed so they can continue to grow. And that's what keeps me going, knowing that none of this is about me personally. My win is not a win for me personally. My win is a win for us, all of us. And that is why I'm doing this. Because if somebody doesn't stand up, then we all fall down. So here I am. No one needs to know my name. They just need to know there's somebody standing up for them somewhere.
Yeah. Is that what you'd like? I wanted to ask you what you'd like listeners to take away from this conversation today.
Well, from this conversation, the thing I want people to take away with them is that no matter how bad a situation looks, you have options. Always be in control of yourself, be in control of your emotions, and think. And don't be afraid to ask AI questions that you can't ask a lawyer. Because I need to get a lawyer. No, you need to get a computer. If you got a cell phone, you can do it on that too. But you need to ask intelligent questions. Write down everything that's going on, and then one by one, go down that list and ask AI what you can do about that. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have an answer. And if you just sit there and you ask yourself the same question, just sit in quiet and ask yourself the same question 3 times. What do I do? You'll get an answer. Then you say, okay, I got this answer. What do I do? Then you get an answer on top of that answer. And it is actually your higher self talking to you, your higher self giving you your answer, telling you where to go, how to get there. All you have to do is listen to your higher self, and your higher self will guide you to anywhere you need to go. And people say, that's Christ inside of you, directing you. And I believe that's true. Your higher self, your higher energy, it's all inside of you. You just have to be patient enough and thoughtful enough and in the right headspace to let it guide you.
Is there anything that that you'd like to get across that we haven't discussed, or I know this is a trying time. I would love to figure out how we can support you as best we can. But is there something that you wanted to get across, or you'd like to say that we haven't discussed about this process, about how you're feeling about any of this?
I want more people to stand up for themselves. I want more people to take their cases to court by themselves, not with a lawyer, by themselves. You have more power by yourself than you do with a lawyer. I want more people to know that there's power inside of them. Everyone has rights, and no one needs to take any crap from anybody. If there's an issue, you have to stand up for yourself, and everyone's got to start doing that. That's the way this country, not this country, that's the way our people will get everything that was taken away from us back, is by standing up for ourselves now. That doesn't mean brandishing firearms. That means taking them to court. That means getting them legally where they got us legally, flipping the script on them. That means, the way to hurt somebody, a wise man once told me, if you want to hurt somebody, hit them in the wallet. Take them to court and hit them in the wallet. That's why the number on this court case is so high, because I'm hitting them in the wallet to the point where they have to look at me like, oh. And then my work is so extensive in everything I've done that they have to take me seriously. There's no stone unturned. They can't look at me and say, oh, this is nonsense. This is not nonsense. This is complete sense. This is utter and complete sense. And everybody needs to start making sense of their business, making sense of the direction they want, and making it not just about themselves, making it about, I'm doing this for the good of all of us. If everybody did everything for the good of all of us, for their communities, and not just their communities, but the communities next door to them, imagine how we could change not just this country, but the entire world. Imagine how the financial situations of Black people, of Indigenous people everywhere would change if we started standing up for ourselves. So let's stand up.
Thank you, John. We wish you all the best, and we pray for a win. But we'd also like to have you back to hear how this process is going. You're expecting to hear back from the defendants. Not everybody has responded, and so we'd like to be able to do some updates and let people know and see how you're doing.
I'd be more than happy to share this whole ride with everybody, because I want people to know that it's possible. It's possible to defend yourself. It's possible to stand up for your rights and for the rights of our community and the rights of Black people and Indigenous people across the board. One person stands up, that encourages everybody else to stand up too. So here I am standing up, and I want other people to stand up too. I've never been a civil rights leader, but if that's my calling in life, then so be it. I'm saying get up and stand up. Everybody. Everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing that important message.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you again. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Aline. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.